Audio Jungle.
Welcome to Charter Local Edition. My name is Brad Pomerance in the Inland Empire today, joined by Pete Aguilar, member of the U.S. Congress, representing significant portions of San Bernardino County, one of its fine institutions, University of Redlands. I went there in high school for Debate Institute. I was that nerd that went to the Redlands Debate Institute. You graduated from Redlands. Talk to me about what happened postgraduate for you.
They still have a good debate program.
They do,
by the
and
way,
I do know that,
you
yeah.
can go back and visit.
Exactly.
Just like many students, and the data tells us, how much debt young people are coming out of college with, over $30,000. That was my situation.
$30,000 at the age of 22, 23.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you face that?
Well, and young people are having a tough time.
Right.
It's altering decisions that they're making, whether it is home ownership, whether it's the jobs that they choose to take. We want to instill in young people the ability to give back and maybe work for a nonprofit or help out in your community, and they're saddled with this high debt.
Here's what's
troubling.
remarkable to me. College debt is now $1.3 trillion. It's 3 times above its rate in 2004. That's a mere 12 years ago. And like you said, folks are having to make life decisions based solely on their debt load. So they're not pursuing public interest. They can't buy their first home. Right. I mean, the ramifications of college debt are quite dramatic.
And they're just getting buried within this. And so that's why it needs to be part of the national discussion. And I'm pleased that elected officials have and continue to make this a key point.
I want to talk about a specific proposal you have made, but first I want to broaden out and talk about this whole notion of student debt, because this year there was significant conversation on the Hill about student debt. And I found it odd, just looking at it objectively, that banks can borrow money at, an 1/8% interest, but students are borrowing at 8% interest. I know, look, I'm not an economist and there are many reasons for that, but as I understand it, your friends on the Republican side did not adjust that student loan rate downward.
Yeah, it was scheduled to go up. Legislation had it fixed at a lower percentage.
Right.
It was scheduled to go up. We were all trying to make sure that it didn't do that, but it did.
It did go up.
And the dysfunction on Capitol Hill allowed that to win. But you're right. I mean, we should be allowing students low interest rate loans. If we want people to make education a priority, we need to help them. That's what my bill seeks to do. Other bills in Congress seek to do the same thing.
So let's talk about your bill. And I do want to really get into the nitty-gritty of
Sure.
it, because it is important that our viewers understand. There are different types of student loans. Some are need-based, some are not need-based. And with regard to need-based loans, there is a loan called the subsidized Stafford loan.
Right.
And that loan traditionally has provided certain grace periods upon graduation without interest accrual. Am I saying that correctly, sir?
Yes, absolutely. And so that's part of the promise that we make when you take out these need-based grants. It's the same thing that I did and same loan that I took out. So it gives you 6 months after you graduate to
Right.
get your feet out from under you.
Right.
So you can get that employment, get that job, and start making those first payments. Well, we're seeing now that it's more and more difficult for young people to transition as quickly into the job market. And some of them, as much as 20%, are actually working part-time jobs.
Right.
And that's 20% of recent college graduates up to the age of 27. So, it's more and more difficult. So what my bill seeks to do is to do 2 things. One is, because of a weird quirk.
And let's actually break it out, if you don't mind,
Sure.
because your bill does have 2 different
Yeah.
remedies. There is this quirk with regard to students who took out these loans from 2012 to 2014. What was the quirk?
So the quirk was, as part of a budget deal, because
Right.
of the $1.3 trillion that you mentioned,
Right.
to make things balanced, Congress said, you no longer have that 6-month grace period where the interest isn't accruing. So the promise has
Why?
always been that so the 4 years that you're in school,
Right.
and the 6 months after school, in that grace period, the clock doesn't start
Right.
on interest.
What was the
that was always the
policy
promise.
reason
Well, it wasn't a policy reason, it was a monetary reason, and it
I
was
see.
a deal that was struck because they needed the money to make things balance and make things work.
So-
and as a result,
yes.
students got left behind. And so you now had students who had that interest accruing and that clock starting much earlier than it did for me and my peers and others,
And
which
what's-
wasn't fair. So my bill seeks to, one piece of it that
Please.
you mentioned, seeks to get rid of that portion. So to reinstate, grace period means grace period. No interest, get your feet out from under you, get settled, get in an apartment, get a job, do what you need to do. And the second piece
Please.
of the bill extends that grace period to 12 months. So that makes it a little easier, a little more breathing room.
regardless of whether you were subject to the 2012-14 quirk.
Exactly. Realizing, so the 12-month is a realization that things have changed. You know, in the past 15 years, student debt has changed, the transition into the workforce has changed, the jobs young people are taking, all this has changed. We need to give them a little bit of help. We need to help them transition into full-time employment in a way that's reasonable and responsible, that doesn't shirk their debt, and allows them to get that jump start.
So I read that the San Bernardino Sun endorsed
Yeah.
your proposal. You, at this point, though, are part of a Democratic minority in Congress. Your friends on the Republican side didn't seem interested in passing what you described as a reduction in the interest rate overall. What are your friends in the GOP saying now with regard to your proposal?
Well, you know, we're pleased that the San Bernardino Sun, LA News Group have
Right.
endorsed the proposal. You know, we're going to continue to bang the drum where there's only a few legislative days left in the calendar.
Right.
So we're going to continue to shine a light on this. And my hope is in the next Congress, in the next year,
Right.
this proposal can be part of a larger conversation we need to have that addresses some of the issues that you mentioned as well.
So let's presume that the Democrats do not take back control of the U.S. Congress, just for argument's sake. Do you have friends on the Republican side that are championing this, a co-sponsor or whatever it may be?
Yeah, there are folks on both sides of the aisle that we can turn to and we can reach out to. This bill, you know, there are members of Congress on the Republican side who I want to have some conversations with and have shown an interest in student loan debt issues. It's a heightened political season right now, obviously, but when the dust settles and we get into a new legislative year, I look forward to working with both sides of the aisle.
And I would presume that this year's presidential race, shining a light on college tuition generally, should benefit this proposal. I mean, you have Bernie Sanders, who's been very clear that he believes college should be free or at some level. Hillary Clinton has jumped on board. I'm aware that even in Germany, university is free. And so I don't know if we're going to get there, but what about this element?
Well, clearly the heightened discussion at the presidential level is only going to help proposals like this and policies that help our students and help our young people in the Inland Empire. So we're going to continue to help bang that drum and to shine a light and to bring attention to these issues because it's important for the region.
So I know that the gentleman sitting in front of me is a big fan of baseball. And I know that the LA Dodgers is your team, is that right?
It is, always has been since I was a kid.
And so something happened recently, sir, that was quite a thrill. I can only imagine what 9-year-old Pete Aguilar would have thought if he saw U.S. Congressman Pete Aguilar do what you did what?
I threw out the first pitch at a Dodgers-Giants game. Recently, which was a total bucket list thing for me. Major League Baseball was incredibly helpful. I play in the bipartisan Democrat and Republican baseball game in June the last 2 years, and Major League Baseball asked if I'd throw out the first pitch. So I went to the top of the rubber, and
you have kids.
I have
younger
2 boys.
kids, and were they there?
No, they were watching on Facebook Live.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was just an incredible opportunity, just a lot of fun, and you know, the Dodgers actually played a role after December 2nd tragedy. They came out to San Bernardino
tragedy, right?
And they came out and brought some players and met with some victims and families, and so that was really nice. So I get an opportunity to thank them for their help and support of the region and for realizing that their market, you know,
includes,
comes out.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes
includes the IE.
Sometimes our friends in LA have a tough time realizing that there's life outside of the 710 freeway. So it was nice to do that and to thank them, and obviously just a bucket list opportunity to throw it out.
His name is Pete Aguilar. He is a member of the U.S. Congress representing significant portions of San Bernardino County. My name is Brad Pomerance in the Inland Empire, Charter Local Edition.